Good morning. My name's Rhonda, and this is Hearts Abandoned Ministries. I decided that I was going to spend some time doing a couple more videos to explain further some things that I said in my testimony. I had this thought. When I follow somebody or I find somebody I want to listen to, I would like to know everything about them. Why? What does that say? Well, it tells me their character. It tells me their experiences. It explains further for me, especially in the Lord. And then I can understand better the person that I'm listening to. In order to open my channel, I think I'm going to make a few videos here just introducing myself, talking about me. You already have my testimony, and that was a brief overview. So I'm going to go into some depth and some detail as far as those points in my testimony. And then I'm going to make a video talking about my theology, talking about my personality. You're going to meet my dogs. It's going to be fun. In other words, I want to get to know you, and I want you to get to know me so you know who you're following. Okay? Cool. I am a cancer survivor. March 5th, 2013, I was diagnosed with a form of pancreatic cancer. It shocked me to no end. I was floored. As I explained in my testimony, my mother had passed from breast cancer some years earlier. And so by all rights, I had a fear, I suppose, of obtaining breast cancer sometime in my life. Pancreatic cancer? Wow. Well, I found out that I was a candidate for this procedure called the Whipples. It doesn't have a very great survival rate during the procedure. It's a 13-hour operation. We had a team of 12 people. My husband was outfitted with a cell phone directly from the hospital so he could be in contact with the head nurse while he waited. They said that they would first open up my stomach and see if it had gone up into the, into my stomach lining. And if so, it was probably over. I did find spots on my stomach lining. They tested those spots and they came out benign. So prayer 1 answered. On we go. They went into my GI system. They pretty much killed my GI system, cut it up. They removed part of the pancreas. They removed a lot of the bile duct. They removed some of the intestine. A lot of times they'll take part of the stomach. And in me, they did not. They chose to leave the stomach. And they tied me all up after they sewed it back together, rebuilt a couple spots. They tied me all up to my intestine. This was a major thing. Just surviving the surgery in the first few days is kind of critical. In fact, I've known people that have not survived the Whipple's procedure, unfortunately. So here I am, but about 10 days in from the surgery, I have a setback. They have to wake up your system to receive food. And it's kind of like having a newborn GI system, and it had to learn how to work. And so what they did is they pumped me full of food through a machine with 2 tubes in my side. Well, that was too much for my system, and I had a setback. I got very, very sick, and they had to start all over from the beginning. They had to reduce the food. They had to take me back to just water for a little while and go from there. Needless to say, I lost a lot of weight during this process. I think my total loss that year was about 65 to 70 pounds. So I was in the hospital for 30 days. I had to live off of the machine for 3.5 months. But in the latter part of that living off of the machine is when I began to wean myself onto food. So my diet that summer consisted of avocados and watermelon. And then eventually I started to eat some pistachio nut. I was on and off again sick for days and weeks and months to come. But let me back up a little bit. My surgery was on Good Friday. Good Friday. Easter Sunday, my children came in, all of them adult children. One of them by now was married and spent Easter Sunday with me. They dressed like they were going to church. I have no memory of this at all. I was in ICU and critical, and I have no memory of this. I have a picture of me lying in the bed and them standing around my bed. And I remember a friend of mine telling me, Good Friday, that's a good day for a tumor to die. It was remarkable for me how God showed me the layout of this. What the enemy meant for evil, God turned into good. So as I walked through that following year, I was just a little itty bitty thing trying to survive this operation. I was scared to death to go to food because I was scared I wouldn't be able to handle it. I used to cry a lot. And I remember in the process of coming home and having nurses care and being on my machine, I would have to get up every 3 hours to pump my medicine into my belly because the pain was unbelievable. The pain was unreal. They had tried epidurals, didn't work. They had tried so many things, did not work. The pain was unreal. And so every 3 hours, 2.5 to 3 hours, I was pumping pain meds into my body. And I remember sitting on my bed, I began to cry out to God. And I said to God, whatever you have for me, it must be big. I never, ever once asked God why. Not one time in the hospital, not one time going through the healing, not one time sitting on my bed crying out to him, not once. I cried a lot. Not one time did I ask him why. What he showed me is that the scripture says that we go through the valley of the shadow of death. We do not camp out there. We go through it. Sometimes he allows us to go through some things in our life that he wants to use in a powerful way later. Whatever you have for me, I receive. And I come to my first follow-up 6 months down the road, and they want to give me chemo. And I said, why? And they said, because you're probably better off with it. And I said, give me some details. And they said, well, it's a gamble. Well, then how could I be better off with it? Well, a lot of people like to take the gamble just so that they feel like they have an insurance policy there with chemo. And so what you're telling me is the odds of this cancer coming back are so great that I could go through 9 months of chemo, and the day after I quit chemo, that cancer could be back. And he said, yes. I said, I want a second opinion. The second opinion was the same thing. So I denied chemo. I said, no, I have gone through enough and I want to live. If this cancer has that big of an opportunity to come back, then I want to give my God an opportunity to heal. And if he so chooses to take me home, then I want to live. This cancer had a 60 to 80% chance of coming back within the first 5 years. With chemo even. So I denied chemo, and I am now looking at approaching my 7th year anniversary, 7 years. In that 7 years, I have watched. I have sat at the side of the bed and watched people pass from this disease. I've had communion with them, I've prayed over them, and I've watched them pass. I don't have the answers, but I do know a big God that does. His thoughts are higher than my thoughts. His ways are higher than my ways. That's what his word says. He's a sovereign God. That's what his word says. His sovereignty means that there is nothing in our lives that he does not either decree or allow to happen. Why does he allow it to happen, you say? Because he has a plan. What the enemy meant for evil, God will turn for good. All things work out to the good for those who love God and are called according to his purpose. This cancer tried to destroy my life. And here I am, 7 years later. I have had 7 bouts of pancreatitis. They don't know why. I've had reconstruction on the head of my pancreas, stents put in, hopefully the flow of enzymes to take place better. I am no longer on enzymes anymore. I was on a prescription enzyme, but my pancreas started to develop its own enzymes, which they thought would never happen. That's my God. So I sit before you with a GI system that's unlike anybody else on this planet. Every single one of the Whipple's patients are different. I sit before you with only 2/3 of a pancreas left. I am not diabetic, and I'm 7 years, approaching 7 years cancer-free. I have a story to tell. I hope that you'll subscribe to my channel. Walk with me in this ministry. God bless you.